Dun, dun, dun. I was far, and now I'm closer, and then I'm touching you.
Okay, is that the topic or something that we're discussing today?
Yes.
By the way, I never know what these topics are, so she introduces it to me as we sit down here, usually.
It's about far, getting closer, 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 and touching.
Okay. So, what is the topic?
Long distance relationship.
Okay, good. All right.
You know, because you start off far, and then hopefully you get together one day so you can touch.
Hopefully you get to touch one day. What if some long distance relationships out there are like super long? Like, I bet there are some that span like years, maybe even decades.
Like, what was ours?
Well, ours was, how long was our long distance relationship?
Okay, so here's a little sneak peek into our life. We were best friends for about 7 years.
Okay. Yeah.
And then when we were actually in a relationship, like a romantic relationship, that was about 2 years.
Right. That's about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we started off as friends first. And we started off as like pen pals, like typing pen pals, like from a chat or an email.
Yes.
And then became phone pals. And then became touching pals.
So the long distance relationship part of it
Yeah.
is what we're going to discuss today, right?
Yes. I come across hundreds and hundreds of people, and I have
Who are in long distance relationships?
who question long distance relationships, who have been in long distance relationships, who ask me about, well, I met someone, what should I do? Should I even try? You know?
Yeah.
So I kind of want to share our story and kind of go down memory lane and see what we did and how it worked for us. And I think there's data out there, look it up, on long distance relationships working in the long run when you're finally together. And yeah, like I want to start like, you know, just start off with like what worked for us, what didn't work for us, and things like that.
Okay. What do you think worked for us? Maybe I can start that.
Yeah.
What I think was really... So long distance relationships are going to be hard. Okay. That goes without saying. But I think something at the time I was maybe in my 20s, I think. And when I look back at those times, I kind of feel like one thing that was good for me was having time to myself, to get to know myself, to learn things about myself, to get to know other friends, meet new people. I think that was an incredibly important growth time in my life.
Yeah.
And I think having a long distance relationship kind of lets you do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're always close to somebody. You always have them with you. And you kind of, I don't know. It's just like this.
I mean, you do want to eventually be that close
Definitely,
to someone.
definitely. But when I was that age, I think I had a lot of growing up to do, a lot of learning about myself to do. And I think that was one thing that was kind of helpful during our long distance relationship time.
Yeah. I think for me, and I'm looking at it from a psych point of view and just like a behavioral, you know, relationship point of view, is starting a relationship from the basis of communication. I mean, there's tons of data on like relationships that have very strong communication tend to do much better because you're problem solving better, you're getting to know each other really well, you're you're just talking about, you're vulnerable, you're talking about your feelings, you're doing the things that you need to do that requires everything communication. I feel like that was really helpful, is just, I mean, when we used to talk to each other, it was like I came in with it, like with things that I was going through, you know? You came in it with things you were going through. And we were like talking to each other as if like, I mean, we didn't know each other. We didn't know each other. There was nothing to lose. You're talking to a stranger about your problems, about anything and everything, and you don't have someone right in front of you to judge you or to remark or to react. And
It's almost like it's safer.
it's safer. Or for me, it felt so much safer.
Yeah.
You just talked. And there were moments of silence, very brief between the two of us, where it just felt like, well, he was accepting everything I was saying and I was accepting everything you were saying. And we would just help each other out or listen to each other. So I feel like communication, and I love what you said about.
Well, I want to clarify something
Okay.
though. When you're saying communication, this was back when we were in a romantic long distance relationship. This was before FaceTime. This was
Yes.
before, yeah. So it was it was phone conversations. It was some email and maybe some chat or
Yeah.
something back then.
Yeah.
And that was it.
ICQ, AIM,
Yeah.
like that stuff was new. And now it's like you've got the equivalent of what Facebook is trying to do, like with Messenger and stuff. But like with those chats, you could actually be incognito. You could have whatever screen name, be whoever you wanted to be. And I know with me and my cousins, we used to do a lot of pranking. So it was like more fun. It was like more of a game. But yes, there's chats and things like that.
So when you're talking about communication, it's like you're not seeing the person, you're not with the person, you are just talking on the phone and
getting to know them.
Yeah.
Like really getting to know them, because you're not there in person just to describe anything or to experience anything together. So if I'm talking about my day, or if I'm talking about how I'm feeling, or describing like where I went or ate, everything you have to describe and tell a story so you can picture it.
that's true.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. That's definitely something I think that helped us grow communication wise. I definitely see that. And I think when you're in person with somebody, you're just so much more interested in, all right, where are we going and what are we going to do? Yeah. What exciting thing, or we're here, we're making out, we're doing all those types of things. And you're maybe not listening as well. I think there was a lot of listening
There
that
was tons
right?
of listening. Tons of listening. Oh my God.
Yeah, because that's the most that you have. That's the most you can do
Yeah.
at that point. So yeah, okay.
And I think we connected through poetry first, right? Poetry and writing.
Poetry and music.
Music,
Yeah.
yes. Connected through music first, then poetry, yes. And I think because we were both kind of like that, we had very like, even though we were friends, there was like this romance kind of lingering between us because we were so
Because we were involved in the romantic arts of music and poetry.
yes.
Yeah,
I
you know what? I kind of agree with that. If you start off a relationship with the music stuff and poetry stuff, you're already kind of taking it into romantic territory. What was
Yeah.
up with that? You did all that.
Me?
Yes.
You
took it right there.
No, I did not. I had no idea what I was getting into. Trust me.
All right.
Years.
No. Something interesting is coming up now, because when we started out, it was like you'd heard some music of mine.
Yeah.
And then we started talking from that. But then you were like, can you help me with my poetry?
Yes.
Okay. That's taking it to the romantic
And
route.
it wasn't like an excuse to talk to you. It was literally someone was like, hey, there's this guy, he writes, and he's a great poet. Here, you could get some help. I was trying to get something published in high school. And I was like, okay, I'll talk to this dude.
I don't know. I have a feeling Dharti was flirting with me from way back then.
No, don't say
There was
that.
a little flirt going on.
I had my guards up. Do not say that.
All right.
I had my guards up. I was like, who is this guy? I don't know. But when we did talk, yes, there was like this instant connection. And I think over the years, there was this romance in our friendship, but we never acted on it until way later. Never acted on it. So anyways, what was I saying? Communication.
Okay.
Okay, bringing it back. The things that I thought were beneficial. And I love what you said about being independent and growth. I think that's such a great point, because that is something, as much as I really wanted to be in a relationship and be with someone and do all the things that are fun, like go to the movies, go out to eat, sneak around, do all that stuff, I did get to grow. Like we saw each other through so many relationships, through all the things that we went through in life, like as individuals.
And I don't take that for granted at all.
Yeah.
When I think back to it, I'm like, all those mistakes I made, all those, crazy things I did, it was all worthwhile because I got to grow in myself. I got to understand myself more. I learned my limitations. I learned what I liked, what I didn't like, because I was out there experiencing a lot of stuff.
Right. And it's not like other relationships, like the young relationships where you're kind of joint together and you're kind of revolving your life around the other immature person.
and not to say that I've had maybe a couple of those too, where it was like we were constantly together, and that's nice too, but I never understood how nice it was to, or I don't know. I don't want to say how nice it was to be in a long distance relationship, but I didn't really value the benefits of that when I was in it.
Yeah. I think I was able to do my family stuff. I was always very helpful with my family, involved in their business. So I was able to be immersed in that, try to figure my stuff out. I'd say most of my relationships that I had were kind of going from high school into college. So it was like, just being in that like adventurous period of like trying to figure yourself out, finding yourself even more, things like that. Another thing is I really enjoyed the mystery of it. So when you're trying to discover yourself, right?
Yeah.
There's this whole mystery of like, oh, I've been talking to this guy on the phone for so long. Like, what is he going to be like in person? What is it like touching him, like looking into each other's eyes? And like, he would take me on these little tiny excursions whenever he'd fly me down. By the way, he'd fly me down. Okay. That was baller back then. Like, you're AirTran? AirTran doesn't even exist. Okay. But imagine
if you're mentioning AirTran was nothing. There was nothing baller about AirTran. Yes, it was like flying her down on Spirit from two cities that aren't that far from each other, so it wasn't that expensive.
But you flew me down.
But I will say,
and though, it was adventurous, and there was this mystery, and I'd get to like
I liked the adventure.
Find bits and pieces of you that was like not on the phone. You know?
that was cool. I actually felt baller doing it.
You do?
Yeah. Back then, can you believe that trip was maybe cost about, at times I got those tickets for $40, by the way. It was baller.
And I suffered through it.
Baller.
I sat on those seats.
Hey, that plane didn't even have a first class, so sorry.
No, there were such small planes.
I remember getting those tickets for $40. That was a fun time.
I would sneak off from Boston and get on a plane, fly down to DC just to see a stranger and pray like, okay, I hope nothing happens to me, because nobody would know about this except maybe one of my sisters and my roommate. And that's only for safety reasons if I don't show up back on Monday or something.
Sometimes you didn't go back on Monday.
No, sometimes I didn't go back on Monday. Because you'd be like, stay another day.
Shame on you.
Shame on you. Wow. Okay. Those were some times. Okay. But yes, I've only had long distance relationships.
You've only had long distance relationships?
Yeah. I think I've only had,
there were some that, you had one that wasn't long distance.
No. They've all been long distance. The closest person that I had near me was an hour and a half away, and that was my senior year.
Is that really long distance then?
It's long distance for me, because back then I wasn't even allowed to go hang out with my friends. Okay.
How often did you get to see him?
I would see him maybe once a month.
That's
maybe I don't.
That's very different from our long distance relationship, where we saw each other maybe every 3 or 4 months.
Yes, we did see each other every 3 or 4 months, but that was long distance. Like, I had to sneak around, take the shared car that my family was sharing, and go off an hour and a half away just to see this dude. Spend time, figure out, am I gonna marry him or not? Come back.
I mean, you didn't have to figure out whether you're going to marry him.
No, but I always dated for the goal of, okay, hopefully it leads to marriage. And that was every long distance relationship. Like, there was more at stake, I feel like, in long distance relationships. There's this New York guy too, that I just felt like, because I'm traveling so far, that is...
You want to make it worth your while? Like, you want to make sure this is somebody you really want to... dedicate this time to.
Right. Dedicate the time to. Is this something I can see in the future? Am I going to get to know this person well enough? And you were the farthest person where I was like, okay. I mean, we're different.
Was everybody flying you to different
No, nobody was.
Was I the only one flying you?
You were the only one flying
That's right. Me. There you go.
You were the only one flying me. I was taking the bus.
Bus. Okay,
I took the train once.
Okay.
And then I was mostly driving.
So
actually, you know what? I was driving a lot to go see you guys. Nobody was coming up to see me.
How many guys were you going and seeing during the same time?
No, not same time. These are different eras.
Okay.
These are different eras of my life. Trust me. I cannot handle just talking to one person. I cannot handle talking to multiple people at the same time.
With all that you've driven, I think you owe your parents a car.
Yes,
right?
That is one of my goals, is to buy them a car. Hopefully this YouTube channel does really well and I can buy them a car.
Well.
Okay, but back to, I was driving to see people more than they were coming up to see me.
Yeah, why? Why'd you bother with that?
I don't know. Was it because I was in college or I was in like high school? Like I'd make all these excuses and I was more like the go-getter because I wanted love and romance so bad. I'd be like, no, I'm going to make it happen. And I am that kind of personality.
Hey, you bring up
things happen.
You bring up a good point though. I mean, if you're in a long distance relationship like that, I think there should be some kind of equality is the wrong word, but you should both partners should be putting in that much effort so that it's not just one person constantly driving down or flying down or what it is, unless there's some clear benefit. If somebody has like their own apartment or something,
yes, actually, I was just gonna say that. It just clicked to me that the people that I dated always had their own space, where I came from a huge family and I had to be the one sneaking out.
Yeah,
like there's no way in hell I would be like, hey, come over. Like, no, unless I was like actually had a ring on my finger.
Well, there you go. Then that makes sense.
So I've had these long distance relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I did want someone close by to do the things that I wanted to do. You know, hang out, be hand in hand. If I wanted to go see a movie, if I wanted to go get ice cream, all these things that you would want to know about someone. I'd feel like that would be so much more convenient to have someone in person. But because they were far away, you had to somehow figure these things out or decipher it when you met each other.
Yeah. You know, I think there's some value in building up to some of those moments rather than having them there all the time. Maybe not everybody takes them for granted, but I think it might be easy to take things for granted if you get it all the time. And I think as you're getting to know somebody, when there is some, I can't wait until I can do this.
Yes.
I can't wait until I do that. Yes. It's all of that I think is, you look forward to it, you anticipate it. It's such a nice feeling to have that. Of course you want it all the time, but yeah, I think it was kind of nice.
Yeah, I think that's where I was going with it.
Oh, okay.
Because I had that thought in my head, like just that anticipation. Like I think I was looking at it more in an excitement sort of a way.
Yeah.
That you have to be so patient to see this person and you're like talking to each other. And I feel like people were putting in a lot more effort on the phone back then to really actually have conversations and talk to each other about anything and everything.
Yeah.
That after that, the next part of like being in person, the anticipation, the patience that you just went through to now be in front of someone, I feel like it just brings a lot more value to the relationship. And I don't know if it's more pressure or what, but for me, I just felt like with us, we talked so much that I felt like if the person that I know on the phone is the same as the person that I'm meeting in flesh, like I have it made, But
that's a risk you're taking though too,
yeah.
Right? Because we don't get to have those experiences in person, and then you're kind of getting to know me from the phone. What if you show up and we go out somewhere and you're like totally annoyed by something that I do that you would have never have seen on the phone?
I don't think I was. You know what? I was always impressed by you. Because Sanjay's like the kind of older guy. Like, it wasn't even that much. It's like kind of older guy, like, who's taking me out. He flew me down. Now you're taking me to a nice restaurant. Like, I got to see a city life that I didn't get to see as like a farm girl. Not that I grew up on a farm, but I grew up in farmlands and, like nature. And it was just like, I was always impressed, and I was always like pleasantly surprised that you are who you are, like on the phone and in person and more,
Yeah.
you know?
So I wasn't very different in person.
No, you weren't. Like, was there anything about me that bugged you?
No, I don't think so. I think I was always pleasantly surprised at you in person. There was always new things I'd discover that would be like, oh wow, I even like that about her too. So yeah, it was always like that for me. But that's not going to be true of everybody,
No,
right?
no. I think we got lucky for sure.
Yeah.
We really knew each other. Like, we would talk about those
Unless,
things. Like, am I cleaning? Am I doing this? This is something about me. This is something about me. We
but
always
I
shared
think,
those things.
but I think you also have to, if you're in a long distance relationship, then you get to see the person, and then you discover this annoying thing. I mean, you have to kind of pick the things that you're willing to live with, right? You can choose to live with something even if you discover a little annoying thing about somebody, and just deal with it too.
Yeah.
You're gonna discover those, but it might take a longer time to get to that point when you're in a long distance relationship.
When you're investing in something, like, it's an investment, right? Like, you're investing so much time and energy to get to know someone. I feel like you are going to be more flexible. Like, for me, I feel like maybe I was more flexible and forgiving when and if something did happen that was minor. Whereas opposed to if I really got to know you in person first, I'd probably be irked by some things way quicker. Or like these days, everyone's like, I've got the ick. I've got the ick. We get the ick so quickly. And I've had the ick. And I've had the ick quickly, But it's like, I think because I've invested so much of my time and energy and really got to know you, and I feel like I know you, these other things that I might have, not that I did, but might have experienced, I'd be overlooking them way more.
Yeah. But there's something to say about mystery too, right? I think if you're in person with somebody, you're getting to see everything so quickly. And I think if you're long distance, there's a little mystery that you kind of that gets revealed much slower, and that's kind of nice. It's nice to discover new things about people in person. It's kind of nice to have the mystery of that holding hands and touching and all that sort of stuff. When you don't have it immediately, you really value it and appreciate it.
Yeah.
And that mystery is, I think people don't value. I don't know. I shouldn't say people don't value it, but maybe it's lost a little bit.
I think it is lost, especially talking to newer generations of people. I think that is something that I could only speak for women, or the women I've talked to, is that confusion of like, how quickly do I do something? How much do I hold back? How quickly am I emotionally vulnerable? How quickly should I be sleeping with someone? And I've had this conversation. I've had a lot of conversations with people ask me that, like, how quickly did you get into bed, or, like, make love or do whatever? And I am a unique situation because I grew up with a certain mindset, and I just wanted like a lot of romance and love, that I was willing to wait for that. And it takes a lot of self-discipline, not that you don't have, but it's like the conversation of how long do I wait, and I feel like those that kind of wait and kind of give bits and pieces and leave a little mystery tend to have relationships where the guy is like lasting longer, as opposed to those that just get right into it. And I'm not saying either way is right or wrong, and always do what you feel is best for you. But from my point of view, I just feel like the quicker you give yourself, like, especially physically, like, I feel like men aren't built the same way as women, right? So that anticipation, the investment put in, the patience, I got to know these little things and blah, blah, blah. The romance isn't going to be the same as women. Mm-hmm. And for me, waiting and getting to that point was so meaningful, like so meaningful. And I felt the love, and that's what I wanted to feel. And for me, it was like I felt worthy of, not worth, I shouldn't say worthy. I felt like I held up my integrity for myself. Like, it wasn't to prove to anyone else, but it was just like I felt my self-worth in that way. My self-esteem was strong. You know, I felt confident. I felt like, wow, like I got what I wanted, you know, eventually. And it was like so worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you have a hard time like waiting, like when you were in long distance relationships, to get physical and things like that? But you're also not like the typical guy either.
Well, I don't think I would say this. I think that's one really challenging thing about long distance relationships is that you want to be in physical contact. You want that physical touch and that intimacy and all that sort of stuff. But when you're, I think two things happen. One, you're kind of missing that person, and if you're okay with waiting, then great. You get to have the mystery and have those nice moments together. But then there's also this thing when you're young and you are meeting a lot of people and you're going out with friends, you just get to meet a lot. You meet other people, and there's other, if you want to call it temptations or whatever you want to call it, but there are other things out there that you get to know. And then you might be thinking to yourself, well, what is my partner doing? Is my partner also kind of experiencing this, or are they meeting somebody else? And now I'm not there physically in person. Are they going to want something else physical? I would say from my experience, I think there was a little bit of that, but that was when we were just friends.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like we were in some committed romantic relationship. We were just friends. You and I were both like, we had seen other people during that time.
Yeah. We'd seen each other through all our relationships.
And I think during that time, I think where I was in that period of my life, I really wanted somebody to be right there. So
and I actually experienced you. So one of the moments where we were actually officially together, I was out in Boston, and I was out with my cousin out with my cousin for the one time that was out instead of my friends. And I remember you calling me up late at night, like it was like 2 a.m. or 1 a.m. or something, while I'm at the club, like, who are you out with? Because some girl that knew you saw me whispering into the guy's ears.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that's what you do at a club, because you can't hear anything.
But I think there was also a time that was at a time when I was a lot less secure in who I was and how I felt in a relationship. So having that insecurity in me is another factor that is a huge thing and it's even more hard to deal with when you're in a long distance relationship. So at that point, that was a struggle for me. I don't think it was after a while. I don't think I dealt with. I've
never experienced that from you ever again after that.
Yeah,
like,
no.
Not in our marriage, not anything.
I can kind of think of. I can
like this girl. Hey, one of my girl. You know, she saw you talking to this guy. Yeah, it's my cousin, and also not just my cousin. My guy friends were there. My girlfriends were there. I was dancing it up. I love going out and dancing.
But so that's a challenge I think a lot of people are going to have, because if you don't have that special person right next to you all the time and you don't see them maybe even for months, you start thinking things, and it's kind of hard to put those aside all the time. You're gonna wonder about things that you really hold close to you. But it has a lot to do with your security with the person. At that point in my life, I think I was a lot more insecure about who I was, so it was a lot more challenging back then.
I don't think I ever was that person with any of my guys. I feel like every single guy I dated was like that. You only that one time, but the other few that I dated were definitely more, I don't want to say sensitive, but more sensitive, and would create situations where I'd have to like check myself. But then I was also like someone, like, I love what you said earlier. You know, you're young, I was out of the house for the first time in my life. I grew up in a very white town. You know, if you weren't related to me, there was no one else. So when I was in Boston, there's international people from different cultures, religions, like they're coming in with all these personalities and, you know, stories. And I love getting to know other people. And it was just like so exciting. And like, I guess like, if you know me now, I get very excitable. I was excitable when I met people then. I'm excitable when I meet people now. just because I enjoy people. And it doesn't matter, man, woman, whatever, animal. And I feel like going from that home environment to being out and exploring and, it's just stimulation all the time. It was exciting.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever, from my end, was like, who are you out with? What are you doing? I heard this. I heard that. Like, I was not into that. I hated that. I didn't like people that gossiped. If people created situations for me, I think it was more like, this isn't the type of relationship I want to be in. And constantly try to, check myself and watch myself, because I'm here to experience my life and, do the things that I need to do. Not to say that I didn't have difficult conversations in those moments, but then I also didn't stop living my life.
How were you able to deal with, did any thought ever enter your head like, oh, I really, really like this person and I really want things to work?
I've cried over boys, but I think it would be that day or that night. And then I was like, man, I don't want to be that girl, because I've seen them.
No, but what if I'm kind of thinking more like, if you're talking to somebody and you really want to be with them, and did you ever get a feeling like, oh, and I saw him talk to this other girl and now I'm kind of like, did you ever feel like, what if he starts liking her more than me?
No, I think for me, I don't know if I'm trying to like quickly reflect on those moments, and I didn't see that. Like, I wasn't ever a jealous type person to begin with, or like a competitive person. To me, it was more like, I hope this person likes the weird me. Like, I was just so different. I'm not your American, I'm not your Indian girl, like, and even the way I was raised, and then me as a person, I just felt very out of place and different from everything. So for me, I think it was more like, I hope this person likes me with all my quirks and weirdness. And then on top of that, I think the one thing that I did stress about is like, there's no way in hell I'm sleeping with this person like so soon, or doing any of that stuff. Like, I'm saving myself for love, And I've had actually 2 guys break up with me because I didn't sleep with them. And luckily, they were so early on, like where I was barely getting to know them and they wanted to get into my pants. And they were just like, yeah, this isn't going to work. And I'm like, good, it wasn't going to work for me, because I don't want to be with that kind of person. And I think when I was younger, I was way more mature than I am now. Like, I had my head on straight. I had really high standards. And I was like, I have seen bad relationships in my Indian community. I've seen bad relationships while working at the hospital, like, or amongst young people, in my friend group or whatever. And I was like, I knew what I didn't want. And in order to not do that, I need to be a certain way. And I need someone that's going to accept me for how this is, with those standards. So for me, if it was anything, it was that.
Okay.
I don't ever remember being jealous about anyone or anything.
Okay.
I think for me, it was just like, all right, you eliminated yourself. Thanks. Next.
Okay.
But you didn't eliminate yourself.
No.
You're here. Like, I loved our conversations, and I loved like coming to DC and being in that bubble. And I'll say it over and over again. Like, it was just so nice. Like, I would leave my life, which I wanted to do because it was so stressful. And I would be in this bubble and just be around someone like that accepted me. And it was just so romantic. And like, we didn't have to kiss or hold hands or anything. I mean, yeah, we held hands here and there, especially early on, like when we weren't in a relationship. But it was just like looking into your eyes, like really being immersed in each other's presence.
Yeah.
It was amazing, By the way, if you relate to any of this, please comment below. Have you been in a long distance relationship? Are you in one? Do you want to be in one, but you're scared? And I have tips on that. And what helped you? What do you think would help someone else that needs, some advice? leave it all underneath, because we have lots more to comment on and advise you on if you want a successful relationship.
Or maybe somebody else has been in a long distance relationship, and if you have a question about that, maybe one of the other commenters might have some advice.
Yeah, we're all here as a community helping each other out. So, advice for people that are in long distance relationships.
Okay, you've got something?
Yes.
Okay.
Number one, just try it. I cannot tell you how many people have come up to me and told me about an exciting meeting they had, or like someone they came across, but they're like, oh, but they live here. Oh, we're in a different blah, blah, blah. It's going to take an hour. It's going to take 2 hours to see each other. Like, put in the effort. If they were really special and you're still thinking about them, try it. What's the worst that can happen? I mean, okay, you're going to break up. Go on to the next person. But try it, because you never know. Don't try to look for people just in this little circle, you know, like in your little neighborhood. Yeah, if you get lucky, you might find that special person there. But you don't want to miss out on anyone. But that comes from someone that has like FOMO about everything.
But I think also if you're not 100% sure, or maybe your partner, the person you're trying to have a long distance relationship isn't, it's fine to just be long distance friends for a while. You're going to learn so much about each other during that time. And maybe you'll start learning things that say, maybe this isn't the right person for me. Or maybe you'll just discover more, and you'd have that time to have that really great communication with each other, a lot of time to get to know each other. And then if things work out for you and you get to come together and be in person in a relationship, you would have had all that time to really get to know each other.
Yeah, I love that. Be friends. Like, that's a companion. A companion is someone you can share your ideas with, you know, your thoughts and feelings, and be vulnerable with, and have adventures with, have a great time doing all the things that you want to do. That comes from friendship. And I love that about us. We're best friends always. Like, just even the other day, like I was having a hard time with something, and you said, "You're my best friend." Like, I forgot how you said it. Do you remember how you said it?
I don't remember now.
It was just like, we've got to talk about these things, or I'm here for you. You're my best friend. And I was like, I'm still his best friend.
Of course you are.
But like, we are each other's best friend. And we have that unique relationship where you don't have to have a girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, husband roles, typical roles. Like, we make our own rules, and we come at it with friendship every time. I would say, yes, go for it. Become friends first. Yes, please listen to that. And the worst that can happen is you end up staying friends, or you're like, all right, peace out. None of this works for me. I'm still looking for the right person. Keep your standards high while you're doing all of this, by the way. You know, I don't think you need to compromise with what you want from someone. There's lots of people out there, and someone's going to fit the bill. And be patient. I think we talked a lot about communication. Be patient. Talk to someone you can talk to about. And it doesn't have to be like deep conversations. Like, I am so goofy with you, you know? Like, someone you can be unfiltered with.
Yeah.
Like, stop filtering yourself. Just say the things.
You're actually more goofy in person than you are on the phone.
I am.
That was something that I kind of learned as...
so that was surprising.
Yeah, that was an in-person thing that surprised me. Yeah. Pleasantly surprised again.
Yeah, I would say the same about you, but that's, I think, after marriage. I made you more goofier. Because even when we became in a relationship before marriage, you were still that serious Casanova, dark horse type guy.
But here's the thing. We were still long distance all that time.
We were.
So you didn't really get to see me.
Yeah, but we'd see each other in person.
But very short. I really only got to see your goofiness after we got married too.
What? No.
Very little in person before then. Yeah. Okay.
Did you capture my heart? And another advice for the modern people, because you did not grow up in the era we did where we had to like email and phone call. You have text messaging and FaceTime. Like, hello. You have so many more ways of like talking to each other. FaceTime. Don't just text. Like, please get on the phone. talk to each other, listen to each other's voice. Like,
Yeah.
it's so awesome.
I like
see each other.
I like mixing it up. I think mixing it up is good. Have some FaceTime, have some text, have some just phone calls. I think they're all so different, and I think it's different ways of discovering people.
Yes, but don't just text. Talk to each other.
Yes.
Please. Ask the questions. Get to know each other. So clearly, we did it all, and we're still maintaining our relationship, which every relationship needs. Always gotta make sure everything's fresh and doing well.
Mm-hmm.
Long distance certainly worked for us.
Yeah.
And without that long distance history, we wouldn't be the people that we are today.
I wonder what we would be like.
I don't think we would have been like this. I think we would have still loved each other and been the same.
Yeah.
But that history of like the talks and all that stuff, the eras that we saw each other in through the phone or conversations, it just brings a whole different weight and value to our relationship.
Yeah.
And there's only one Earth. Spread love, share more stories, and connect.